Welcome back to Switch to Linux. We have ourselves another supporter stream. I have a little sticky note of notes, and I have a notepad and some paper here because we're going to take down some ideas, and then I will probably do a more expanded video on what we are doing here. Let's go ahead and bring folks on. All right, how's it going, Selby?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
I'm going to the taking my car to a checkup tomorrow. In Europe, we have all cars that.
Can anybody hear me at all?
All cars that are more than 4
I
years
can't hear
old.
anybody else, but I think they can hear me.
Hold on. I need to.
Why does this do this?
Mark, we can hear you. All right, there we go. I muted him. All right. All right, Salvo, go ahead.
Yeah, so in Europe, we have all cars that are more than 4 years old has to go every other year for a garage into a workshop and do a check. And there are 12 things they check that it needs to be in proper conditions, like brakes and steering and everything that involves.
In Pennsylvania, we have to do that on every car, doesn't matter how old it is.
Yeah, so in Europe they made the conscious decision that every new car is assumed to be in working order. I mean, if they're not, then the car manufacturer is doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that tomorrow.
Fun. Dan, what's going on your way?
I think I'm good.
Oh, not a whole lot. Actually, got with the Peppermint team guys, and they gave me some help on how to actually roll Peppermint into the Bookworm version, which is the next release of Debian. And I'm learning that Bookworm right now is a rolling release. You get 10 to 25 packages a day constantly.
You can blame it on climate change. The glacier that is Debian is starting to thaw, and so it's rolling faster.
Yeah.
Climate change is true.
I didn't think it actually did that fast.
All right. Mark, how's it going your way? I think you're working.
Pretty well. Yeah, everything's working finally.
Very good.
I've reduced, about everybody knows I have Tourette's and stuff. I've reduced some medications to be general and much more energy, much more focus, actually. Because I am taking the other pill that helps with that. But I got some jellies coming, so and work is going good. I'm very productive, and things are better now that I've reduced.
Good. Yeah, I mean, ever since I fired that client back a few months ago, I'm a little short on the work right now. But you know what? I'd rather be short on work and know it than do a bunch of work for somebody and and that. Ashton, you're muted right now on our end, so we can't hear you if you're talking because you're muted. But anyway, Mark, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, was you talking about somebody else?
Oh yeah. Ashton's having issues.
Gotcha. Okay, I was just saying that. Yeah, I would love to give you money for a website right now, but not quite there yet. But hopefully, I think 2023 is going to be better overall. Things are set right. I have more energy, and I hope your business continues to do well in the web development and stuff. I still think people, even with drag and drop builders, not everybody knows how to do it. They're not. It's like somebody said.
I actually had a client the other day say, "Hey, we want to change some functionality and stuff. And what do you think about Wix?" I'm like, "I think Wix is an abominable nightmare. You don't want to use it."
Yeah, I wouldn't.
We're doing that. And one of my clients went with somebody else for a big redesign because they actually work specifically in their field and have marketing plans. I'm like, okay. Whatever happens.
It is what it is. You can't win them all, but and sometimes a client isn't really worth having. Sometimes they're just not a good fit.
That's why I'm not lamenting the loss of this one, because I picked them up like 5 years ago and I've never changed my rates. So it was like 5-year rates, but like they only did a few hours a month, and so it wasn't really more annoying than anything else. Whereas some of my clients, we're doing several dozen hours a month. doing that.
Yeah, that's good.
I was just going to call on World of Linux, and he left. But I think you're still over here. Are you still here, World of Linux?
Yes, it should be.
All right. Yep.
Hey, World
Brave crashed. It literally just crashed. I kind of have stability issues with my computer. I'm not sure if the RAM clock speed or something. It's something very specific.
If I'm not mistaken, are you still using the Mac?
Yes.
See, it's just taking all your bandwidth to send all your photos to Apple. We'll talk about that.
Surprisingly, I'm using Fedora in this case, but for everything else.
There you go.
You're on Wayland then.
Because I cackled. I played Cackling Harris. Ivan, how's it going your way?
Well, not too bad. We've got ourselves our first considerable winter weather coming in. It's just starting up.
Okay, but before we hear about your winter weather, World of Linux, how's it doing up there?
Actually, pretty good. It's not too cold. It's about 0, -1. Not too freezing, but it's like right around the corner where everything's cold. So, I mean, 50-50.
All right, Ivan, is it 0 yet?
No, it's not. It's not that yet.
It's about 40 degrees Fahrenheit here. It rained all last night, and it was just cloudy today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, doing it this way, using the web page instead of through the app seems to work better.
Interesting. Usually the app works better than the web page.
Hello.
Oh well, I guess it's one way or the other. Come here, Kitty the Hut. Kitty the Hut's right here. Look at that. I got Kitty the Hut. Come here, buddy.
Kitty.
God, you gotta quit feeding that thing.
I should quit feeding him. I hear him breathing heavy at night sometimes. I'm like, are you gonna have a heart attack over there, cat? What are you doing?
Yeah.
All right, I think we've done all of the intros and wow, we have everybody there. I'm actually moving. I'm getting perilously close to the New Mexico border. So, if you're in New Mexico, let me know. I'll be shooting across the southern tip and then eventually be driving through Texas. I'm not sure which region. There's 700,000 miles of Texas. But I'll be in there somewhere. I'm not sure if I'm going to go through Houston, Dallas, or Austin. But we'll figure that out later. Hopefully we'll try not to get abducted by any cartels that are taking over the border. And I'm really curious. I should be driving fairly close to El Paso. Should I swing in and see if the homeless are back? See if they just put them all in a hotel room for the night for dementia patient in charge and then took off from there. I don't know. Let's check in on comments. We have 15 on the Tubies. We have a 19 on the Odysseys. We have 9 on the Rumbles. We've got 2 over there on Twitch. Greetings, Die Master. How's it going there? Okay, D-Live, they either changed something. It says less than 5 viewers. We've always had less than 5 viewers on the Lost Stepchild of D-Live, so I'm not sure what's going on. We do have a supporters only chat going on, going up on locals right now as well. And also before we get into comments, if you guys head on over to the website, this is a really weird resolution, by the way. So, I mean, this site is not usually this chaotic. But down here, we've actually added a matrix room, if you didn't catch that video. So it's a public space is what they're called. But it's not showing up in the public directory yet for whatever reason. I'm thinking maybe it has to do with we're too small, too new, whatever else. But if you just click on the link on the bottom of the website with the Element logo here, that will send you right on into the room. And then I think we have 4 rooms right now. I should put one up for live chat and stuff, but I don't have a way to monitor it on this computer right.
You have one channel with 4 rooms.
Yes, correct. It's called a public space with 4 rooms. Yeah. Anyway, let's check in over on comments. Odyssey first. Hello, the alternative. Commodore fan, how's it going there? Looks like Tux here is a bit strung out. Yeah, a little bit. He's on the other type of snow. Yikes. I'm assuming you're thinking the Tux from the thumbnail. Yes, he was on a little bit of snow there. Greetings, Devoured Eagle. How's it going there? Tube you. Reload tab or start the stream from your following or home, not from your notification list. There you go. Stick with Solace, where updates are usually once a week. All right. And let's see on the Tubies. Electric Albatross. Greetings. Can we have Tux all? We have Tux at home. There you go. Let's see, Razzle Review, greetings. I did that when they took away Windows 2000. Only my mistake was going to Zorin. After the first crash with it, we went straight to Mint. And look back. At least I started researching distros. After the 5th crash, I went straight to Mint. There you go. Yeah, Zorin is still one a lot of people are talking about. I am compiling a list for a 2023 distros to watch. I have a list over here buried on one of these sticky notes in front of my desk. There's about 500 of them over here. I'll find it. Hopefully before 2024. Then we'll get that video out.
Elementary OS is still doing very well. They've got rid of one of their developers. They had to step away, but
is it the one who kind of like had this nervous breakdown or whatever else? I did a video.
It's gotten a lot better. It's not nearly as restrictive. It's really not restrictive at all. Now, I think whenever the second developer left, the head developer now, I think it's just like a very small team, maybe just one girl doing it, and they're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, is that the one you got to pay extra for the premium version, or is that Zorn?
I have not been hearing any rumble in the background about Elementary at all, and so it's not on my list right now. I'll look into it. I'll see what it's doing. But, I mean, I'm looking at the comments people are giving me and all sorts of little things. So I'm compiling. Like, the last one that I did was actually just pull the top 5 from DistroWatch and why those are on the top 5 is what I did, which is not necessarily a thing. I was very clear in that video. This is not necessarily the top distros, but this is the top distros people search, and here's why they probably are there. That's kind of why we did that. But this one's actually going to be the top distros to watch based on the chatter I am hearing in the comments section. So Solus might actually be on that list because a few people are mentioning that. There's a few other, I don't want to spoil the video quite yet. Devoured Eagle, American Legend, and AWolfer are overall on Rumble. Thanks for joining us over there on Rumble. Welcome, Rumble Dwellers. Of course, you guys have a nice join button there that goes over to the locals page, switchedtolinux.locals.com. We need a few more people. We actually have about 40-something over there on the free tier. And so we need to get some good discussions going over there, guys. Although I could probably post in some of the tinfoil hat time stuff I'm doing right now. I have done a lot of I've done the preliminary research for this this month's tinfoil hat time, or I'm thinking, you guys let me know. It's going to be kind of related to tax type stuff. Should we push that out 1 month out and do? I had one in mostly already written actually. So should I do that one more out so that comes out more in the middle of tax season rather than the very beginning?
Probably more in the middle.
You think middle?
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, people aren't thinking taxes now because they haven't even got their their 1099s in the mail yet.
I'm one of these business owners. I had to go in and create Pennsylvania IRS. The Pennsylvania KGB is changing the way they're doing all their sales tax stuff. And so I had to go and create the new sales tax system. And I have proof that they are the devil. They sent me a confirmation code to make sure it was really me. And right in the middle of that confirmation code was 666. So Pennsylvania KGB is indeed the devil.
Wonderful.
Jennifer, hello. American Legend, what's happening, Rumble Gang? Greetings. All right. So let's go ahead and get on into our topic. We're 15 minutes in, and we got a lot more folks on the panel today, which is totally awesome. So we're going to try and keep our ideas and responses a little bit short. I'm going to go ahead and start with just a couple of preliminaries. Number one preliminary is that we do recognize here, I'm not like so militant, everyone has to switch to Linux or you're stupid. Although we do joke about that from time to time. We understand here that some people can't switch to Linux full time. And so I say, switch to Linux on the things you can, and keep using the crapware for the things you can't. But the reason that makes a big difference is we want to be cognizant of the fact that some people are really curious, but are sometimes turned off by the communities that say 100% everybody has to switch to Linux, period. And that's not necessarily true.
Have no other choice.
Yeah. Any other brief commentary on that before we jump over?
I use a Mac. right? And I also use a Windows machine, and I use Linux as well. I'm like multi-platform, right? So I don't just stick with one, right?
I went through my phase of doing that back when I had the cool office, and I had a Windows machine here, a Linux machine here, a Mac machine here. I do actually have a Windows Surface and a MacBook Air up in the cabinet above me. I started them last Christmas, not the Christmas that just happened a month ago, last Christmas. And I actually charged them up a couple weeks ago. So they're charged if I need them. But I have not turned on anything other than Linux in a long time. My Warcraft 3 computer is still that old Windows 7 that shouldn't be on the internet. But I just turned that on Friday night to play Warcraft 3.
I'm coming home on the workstation this weekend. Coming home to Linux.
Yeah.
Where I belong.
But by the way, the only 2 games that I actually play, I can actually run on Wine just fine. Since I rebuilt my my one laptop, I just never reinstalled them. But maybe when I go to my storage unit, I'll go ahead and get those reinstalled on a laptop so I can dump that computer entirely.
Lutris might help you run those a lot better than just plain Wine.
Yeah, I mean, we'll figure it out when we get there. I'm not really all that concerned.
Lutris, if they're popular games, has scripts to actually install all the parameters to load the correct DLLs and all that crap, so your game runs good.
Yeah, they're games that came out of the Cretaceous period, so they'll work on anything. And I've never had problems with them working at all. I actually used to do network gaming on the one with my cousin, so whatever. The second thing we want to mention is why might one want to switch to Linux cold turkey? Of course, I wanted to do this video kind of in response to the one we did last week where we talked about slowly switching to Linux, which is what I recommend for most people. You're going to look at the free and open source alternatives, install them on your system, play around with those a little bit, maybe get a live key, slowly do that. And I talked about, since I've been making an income on YouTube, and video content creation is a better thing now because we are diversifying. I created that business on GNU Cache, and then after using GNU Cache for 3 years, was it last year? I think it was last year, 2022. I created a GNU Cache file for my primary business, and then all of 2022 I did all of my accounting twice, once in QuickBooks, which I've been using for years, and once on GNU Cache. Did all the final comparisons, and I said, you know what, we're done with QuickBooks this year. So this year, that last application that I've been running for business is now gone, and now I am 100% Linux on all of my businesses. Okay, publishing, web design, all of my businesses, Linux, free and open source software. I'm not bowing the knee to any big corporation, because here's why you might want to switch cold turkey. If you don't follow Louis Rossman's channel, he did a video. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? When did this? I think this came out yesterday. This is a video summary of a blog post from Jeffrey Paul. And what Jeffrey Paul did is he starts by saying he does not use iCloud. He does not use an Apple ID. He does not use the Mac Store. He does not store anything in Mac OS Photos application, even locally. He never opted for any of that type of stuff, but he's using Mac OS on Apple hardware. He had some images in a folder. They were photos taken from an iPhone, copied to the Mac using an image capture program. And what he found is simply opening those files up, all of the bunch of meta and media data was being sent to Apple, as he has little snitch installed to monitor all application website traffic. And what he found is every time he opened a local image, api.smoot.apple.com, and I'm looking at this going, Smoot. SMOO sounds better than SMUT. And so I'm really thinking that's exactly what they're doing. Of course, this comes only a few months after saying we're going to abandon that CSAM scanning that everybody had a problem with. And then they didn't say what else they were going to do about it. And then all of a sudden in the last update, guess what? All sorts of Now, The old CSAM scanning, you at least that had to be tied to the iPhone and using the iCloud account in order for that to even trigger. This is not even doing that. So this is
Is there a user's agreement or something that gives them permission to do this on your Mac?
In the new update,
World of Linux, you should know.
Yeah, so I haven't upgraded yet, but every update you always need to agree to a new license agreement, right? So they're able to change it on every single update. So then again, if I would check on the new one, it would probably be there that they changed quite a few things on like iCloud Private Relay and all the other features to allow this to happen on iOS and Mac OS as well. So, you know, I'm not sure yet, but I'm definitely not going to upgrade.
Yeah. And this was I think the article says it was the latest. So when you find your computers or you come to the revelation, okay, Windows is literally tracking and doing everything, or just in my case, dude, it's so frustrating. Like, it's so frustrating. And so if you get to this point and you're pushed to that point and you're going,
yes,
I'm done.
Yeah, that's where
this one's for. So we have a few things. Anyone else have anything before we dump into? I have 4 sub-points here about basic tips about cold turkey switching Linux. Anybody else want to chime in before we do that?
Yeah, so when I heard about it, right, you know, with Lois Rossman's video, then it was like, that is it. So now I'm in the process of essentially starting to switch away and essentially wipe out all my Macs and do it from scratch and only use it for work-related or for creative purposes, but not using it for anything personal, not putting personal file, not connecting to the network, not doing anything. I'm not doing any of that. So I'm not going to, you know, do anything personal, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. And that's why that I have to figure out if I need to get a new computer just for Linux, for example. I already got my game PC that can run Linux.
Depending on which Mac you have, it can, you know, you can run it off a USB hard drive.
Yeah, it depends. I already tried my old MacBook Air. The Wi-Fi drivers, though, is such a pain to install, though. That's really the only thing to really get it working.
My MacBook
2017.
Air really? My MacBook Air from about that generation boots and works Linux perfectly.
Unless if it's a specific Linux distro, but I'm not sure. Maybe I should try more.
Ivan, did I hear you trying to chime in?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I wasn't. But in either case, you know, it's like for some people, it can be a very easy thing to do. It can be kind of like, I just did the way I have to do it. And for other people, it could be very difficult.
Okay. I forgot to announce cinnamon stick tea, no soy boy tea tonight. All right. Anyone else before we jump in?
The only thing I could comment is that for those who reach the point that I am switching to Linux, the one thing that you should not do is what the Linus Tech Tips did a year or so ago when they did the Linux challenge. Do not Google what the best Linux because which is the best Linux is. You're going to get as many answers as people you ask. You need to figure out what you're doing with it and find a distribution that does that reasonably well.
Yeah, do your research.
And on that point, you know, they're going to mention it's always going to be the same 3 or 4 distros on every site that Google serves you on the first page.
Ubuntu.
I would be using Start Page in the first place, and I would also consider going to like places like DistroWatch and like he said, like Sobu said. It really depends on what you want to do, and just know that there's hundreds of flavors out there, and just because 3 or 4 are popular doesn't necessarily mean it's the right fit for you. Go ahead.
Fit for you.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, looking at different distro reviews to see, I mean, some Linuxes are going to be different. Mostly from the desktop environments. You know, are you going to be looking at change? You know, how the UI looks. I like a traditional Windows look. I intentionally seek those out and modify things to it. If you're not into that, hey, there's plenty of other things out there that don't do that. So
I think the best advantage you could have is talk to somebody that you know that already uses Linux.
Yeah.
and have a discussion of what you expect out of it and what you want it to look like and how you want it to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So here are my points. If you are ready to cold turkey switch to Linux, nuke that Mac, nuke that Windows, install some flavor of Linux and get started. Okay, here's the things to keep in mind. Number one, it's not exactly the same. You can look this up. What is this 10, 15 years ago? This girl was going to college, like, you need a computer. She bought one from Dell and it had Ubuntu installed instead of that. And then she can't get her internet working because the Comcast.exe setup doesn't work. Who even needs Comcast.exe setup anyway?
Why do you need a program to set up your internet?
But, you have to understand it's not the same. Somebody posted over on Twitter today a very funny, it was like a picture of a dog kind of looking like, huh? It was, and it said, when my IT professor in school tries to install Chrome.exe on Ubuntu. And by the way, we crossed 1,000 Twitter followers on Switch to Linux this weekend. So thank you guys over there.
Thanks to Chrome, these things are becoming more in the light.
Yeah. So the point is it behaves differently. It uses a different file structure. It uses and there's multiple file structures. You can do ext2, you can do ZFS, you can do Btrfs. There's a lot of these different file systems you can use. Whereas, Windows, you got NTFS, and what's Mac use? I don't even know.
So APFS, that's the new one, and they used to use the HFS, the hierarchical file system,
Yeah. That, unless you're doing something really weird, doesn't really matter to you, to your basic user.
Isn't that a Hewlett-Packard standard? I don't know if it has anything to do with HP.
If it is, that's why it sucks. Sorry guys, if you're new around here, guys, I just have an intense hatred for Hewlett-Packard. They screwed me over on an old computer right when Vista came out, and since then I will continue to bash them every moment I can. So,
and your hatred
fine.
is
It's just it's a personal vendetta, and I'm just having fun with it these days.
Yeah, I jumped on too. I got a Brother printer this time instead of an HP.
See, CHP, you should have honored your warranty on your stupid, $200 compact computer you sold me 2 decades ago. I'm already losing my business.
You want to buy an HP printer, they want to sell you this instant ink subscription program to go with it and all kinds of other garbage.
Yeah. Anyway, to get back on track, just to keep in mind, it's not exactly the same. You install software different. We're going to get to that in a minute. You're not going to as frequently be downloading programs off the internet because everything you need is generally inside the software repositories, which is way more secure. It's going to be a system that could very well look very different. And if you're a person that's like, I want to build the perfect computer design, you can do it. You're not limited by what they want you to have. That's my first point on everything else. And it looks like our server has crashed down. We might have too many people on our server right now. So we'll wait for that to get reconnected here, and then we'll jump back into it. I was just about to ask people if they have anything else they would like to say about that. So give us just a second to reconnect. And let's go ahead and rejoin the server. And rejoin the meeting. Rejoin the meeting. I'm rejoining the meeting, and my meeting is not wanting to rejoin itself. I'm glad that my microphone is working correctly, but why can I not rejoin myself? Oh boy. Yikes. Literally, my rejoin meeting button is not working. I'm going to have to restart Jitsi. Let's give that a try. Okay. I'll get a message from the Linode saying, what in the hell are you doing? All right. Hey, there we are. Mark's back. And we're coming back. We're slowly coming back. All right. Hey, Selby's back. All right. Word Linux is back. Ivan's back. Mark's back.
Yeah,
All right. Anyone?
White trash. Give them
I'm wondering if we might have too many people on for my server to handle it.
Yeah.
But I'll check my Linode stats later and maybe change it. So with that, anybody have anything before we move on to point B on it's not exactly the same?
Well, then again, honestly, I think that Debian and Ubuntu is like the best, flavor Linux distributions that you can get.
Hello?
For software support.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I would add Mint is one of the user-friendly ones. So I would prefer that over Ubuntu any day.
Okay.
I would
hear you.
Yeah.
For a new Windows user, I would probably recommend Mint myself.
That's generally what I do. Although there's a few other reasons to use them.
I would recommend Peppermint, but the installer, it has all the software built into Calamari's installer that you'd want to select, and that would confuse a new user right off the bat.
Correct. I'd agree with that. Yeah.
For a modern implementation, something more, it's a little Windows-like too, but more Mac-like, I would say Fedora. But if you're looking for something strictly more like Windows or Windows 10 or Windows 11,
it's not one access my camera anymore.
I wouldn't put somebody on something like Wayland.
I would say Mint, yeah.
I would use Xorg distro
Cinnamon.
for new person.
Mint Cinnamon Desktop is hard to beat, really, for that traditional.
Yeah, for sure. Let's check in.
Windows 70. Yeah.
I'm going to check in on a few comments real quick here, and then before particularly we lose them out of the Odyssey ones. And then we'll move on to our next point. Devoured Eagle forgot about Elementary too. Endeavor OS XFCE on my old ThinkPad. I'm running Endeavor on my media PC, running Cinnamon. Let's see. Here's my text return program. Echo IO0 IRS. Road Vagabond Life. Can I borrow your program from you? Yes, I'm advocating the Linux Master Race. That's correct. Let's see. Artix Linux. There you go. I think I finally went cold turkey to Linux back in 2010, 2012 when I was keeping track back then. There you go. Try Solus on a MacBook. Use their hardware installer. Go to the terminal sudo depmond-a. Hit enter. Password. Do the same thing. Reboot. Wi-Fi should be working. Okay. That's on a mid-2012 MacBook Pro. All right. No Jab Ever says HPs are junk. I agree with you. Linux works perfectly on my HP laptop. Yes, Linux is going to work well on HP laptops. It is one of the brands of computers that you can get pre-installed Linux on. Dell has been another one. Lenovo's another one. I just wouldn't recommend them because screw you, HP. You should have, honored your warranty on that $200 compact computer 20 years ago.
Well, a lot of the newer HP laptops will not take Ubuntu or anything like that. They will not let you change off of the Windows installed bootloader.
Mm-hmm. Which ones will not?
A lot of the newer HPs. My cousin got one, and his is locked right to Windows 10.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look into that when
it won't allow it to boot off. It won't allow it to boot from anything else.
So you can't disable secure boot at all. Like it's just
no, it's all prefixed. The only thing that can get around it is an upgrade to Windows 11.
Great. Sounds wonderful. Well, if it takes upgrading your Windows 10 to Windows 11 to switch to Linux, go for it. It's the only use case I'm going to recommend you switch to Windows 11. All right. Let's see.
That's basically kind of what happened to me, except I like Linux anyway, so I was going to move anyway.
We got Anna Rita's on. Fernanda's on. How's it going there, guys? Right about the poor Russian on the flyer standing on his beliefs and getting ridiculed by it. Real world backload of orders for his jerseys. No Windows in this household. This Windows is 666 for us. There you go. Lutris worked a few times, but far from perfect. All right. Thought the real number of the beast was actually 616. What do you think, Mr. Trump? I think it's 666. I'm pretty sure.
One thing that's fun to note is that back in the 90s, when there were still 3-digit megahertz numbers on the CPUs, they skipped the 666 megahertz and because of the backlash they thought would be due to that. And I think that was a good choice, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
So what do they go to now? Like,
yeah. Okay, been using Brother laser printer for years now. Yeah, I really like the HP equals hardly practical. There you go. Let's see. Ubuntu is evil. Stick with the Debian base or something like Solus. LMDE. Lenovo won't work with Ubuntu. I've used Ubuntu on Lenovo's before.
Now, there's some machines that won't accept the Ubiquiti installer.
Oh,
that's fascinating.
But we'll take the Calamaris.
Okay. I'll take Calamari with Marinara. So.
Of course, with Debian, the net installer is the most open source, unpolluted way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Is it better to buy like a Linux computer that's designed for Linux instead of trying to install Linux on a computer that runs Linux?
I have never had a problem installing Linux on a computer. However, some of the modern, like the very latest cutting edge, they might be trying to lock bootloaders. Yeah. Although I would guess that computer that had to upgrade to Windows 11 to unlock the bootloader, I imagine there's probably going to be a way around it because it's really hard to lock a BIOS that badly.
Just turn off secure boot.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder, but I don't want to speculate without seeing the machine because I have seen some reports that some modern computers are trying to lock people into it so much. It might be an issue with the TPM or something like that, so there might be a few things that need removed. We do have a Rumble rant that I want to get to, so it's a question, and hey, if you pay for questions, that's going to get the most attention. Thank you, Devoured Eagle, $1 Rumble rant. There's someone I know who's missing right now. Can you guys think about how to track his phone? Would he ever have his location on? Any tips would greatly appreciated. Okay, depending on where you're at, if you are in the United States and you have a missing persons and the police are involved, they can actually use a Stingray to track down a phone if he has his phone with him. And I know this because a kid I mentored got lost in the woods once. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever, he actually doesn't like phones. And so he didn't have his phone with him. But that's the first thing the police asked. Does he have his phone with him? Because if he has his phone with him, we're going to fly around this area with a helicopter with a Stingray and find it. So that's one factor. The other factor, other means of tracking, he would probably have to have location turned on. If somebody would have access, depending on if it's an Apple or a Google phone, if somebody else in the family has access to the Google accounts, they might actually be tracking invariably because Google tends to do that. So it is possible. Apple's Find My Phone stuff will work without location services being turned on because it uses the low energy Bluetooth stuff. So those are the things to look into. Those are the only ways I know of off the top. Waiting list is too long. Expected to work right now. We're over on Rumble. And Angelo Gia says, I'll be back. All right. Mint gets boring. That's why I like it. I do not want my operating system to be exciting. I have work to do. Let's see. Miss watching the stream. Just started watching the beginning. All right. All right. Ashton, go ahead. Can you speak?
I just when y'all started talking about HP stuff, that reminded me of something that happened yesterday. Because I work in a Walmart, and some dude needed to buy HP 952 printer ink, and a full combo pack of all the colors is $125.
Ouch!
It's madness.
Yeah, that's outrageous.
Yeah. All right. We are running low in time, so part two. Part two, every what did I write on my sticky note? I can't read my writing. This is getting bad.
Put on your glasses.
I don't have glasses. Every OS, it's just, I have no earthly idea what I wrote. Oh, as every operating system has limitations, including Linux. Linux is not perfect. Every operating system does indeed have limitations, and we have to recognize that the limitations of Linux are going to be different than the limitations of Windows, are going to be different than the limitations of Mac. Of course, limitation of Linux, sometimes things are just hard to get working with, but limitation of Mac, we're going to send all of your image info back to Apple because we think you might be bad. Windows, we're just going to send everything back to us because we just want to collect all the data. But every operating system has its own limitations. Anyone have a limitation story? And hello, Moonbase Alpha Grace, just jumped in late. And Linux Quads.
With Linux, I think the limitations is how limited do you want to be, because there are ways to get around things. If you have some Windows software that you've purchased that you really like, let's take example, this piece of software had been floating around for a long time that it's freeware for Windows. It's called MP3 Tag. That program, you can run it in Linux under Play on Linux with Wine. It runs perfectly fine. You can tag all your stuff. Same thing with MP3 Gain, which is a lot better than the Linux version of that. There is a Linux version of that, but it's not as functional as the Windows version. But to get the Windows version, you got to be really careful because it'll most likely be patched with a lot of malware. But like if you can, you install VirtualBox, you can have a Windows virtual machine. You can actually take it offline and do work with your Windows software. It doesn't require the internet. There's ways to try and push those limits out farther.
If it's possible to install VMware Player, though, it's you would use that just for the graphics, right? You can use VirtualBox if you don't need like enhanced graphics, but if you do need to and you have like a video graphics card, it's gonna accelerate the graphics, so you're actually going to be able to run like Windows programs that's really highly intensive in 3D, right? Mm-hmm. So at least you're able to run Linux.
What about QEMU?
Right? So, does it have like graphic acceleration like VMware? I'm not sure if that like full graphic acceleration. It's also the OpenGL version that's the issue, right? So VMware supports like almost the latest one, while other virtualizers might only support like a very old version of OpenGL, so it might not be compatible. So it all depends. It's just for the graphics, though. Everything else is exactly the same.
Fair enough, I guess.
Yep. All right. So our next point, installing software, it happens differently. On Windows, of course, they are trying to get the store monopoly, and they're trying to get versions of Windows that lock you out of installing anything but what's in the store, and that's scary. You generally, on Windows, you're either going to buy Apple's, buy software, or you're going to go out to the internet and download one, and that can be frightening, especially since there have been a lot of a new way of spreading malware in Windows, since they've locked out a lot of the macros, is to install an application like, hey, I need VLC. You find VLC, and instead of downloading it from a reputable source like VLC, you download it from Bob's Backyard Programming .vlc, and then you install that, and then suddenly you have some side-loading malware. It's kind of problematic. Bob, he always gets in my way. But on Linux, on Apple, of course, they do have the software store. You can download Apple's software as well. They do make it harder to run, which is just fine. But then it will, you can get more stuff. On Linux, most software is through the repository. And if it's not through the repository, oftentimes there's a repository to add to it. So you're installing software quite a bit differently, just different means, different ways. And so that's one of the things you have to understand. So you're not going to, install Comcast setup internet.exe in your Ubuntu machine, crazy woman, who then blamed Dell for having to quit college for the semester. It's like, you're an entitled weirdo.
I still have no idea why Comcast would need a program to set up your internet. That just doesn't make any sense.
Because it's not really needed to set up your internet. It's needed to install bloatware on your computer. Because, their advertisers demand it.
I remember
it's a speed here.
I remember that 20 years ago, a popular alternative internet provider in Norway did the same. It was World something in the name. I think it was an Italian origin. And on the website, on the guides on how to set up your internet connection, the only thing that they will tell you how to do was to run their executable. They utterly refuse to provide any other means of how to dial up and so on, because the dialer that they used also fetched down ads to use on your computer, because they didn't have any subscription fee to join, so they had to have some other means of revenue.
Yeah, so there's ways around it, I guess. All right, my last point. Learn the alternative software. And that's going to be your biggest thing. When I first switched over, I'm like, I'm going to use this Ubuntu. And, I'm a web developer. I paid my couple $1,000s for my Ubuntu or my Adobe software suite. I'm like, how do I get Adobe software suite running? How do I get I actually tried installing Microsoft Office on my laptop. How embarrassing.
I'm not saying anything.
Good luck.
Thank you, Ivan. I appreciate that. But I was brand new. I just installed this thing. I didn't have any community. I didn't have anybody talking about this type of stuff at that time. And so I'm like, how do I get this to where I'm trying to run Windows or like Microsoft Office set up through Wine? I'm like, really? This is kind of crazy. And I'm like, it wasn't work. I'm like, kind of bummed out. And then I start looking at like, wait. GIMP can do about everything Photoshop does. Okay. Bluefish can easily replace Dreamweaver. Okay. We have Inkscape can completely replace Illustrator. Okay, that's 99% of what I use my Adobe software for. Don't forget, I do the occasional thing with Sound Booth, Audacity. So every software package, there is an alternative too. Sometimes they're not as good. There's not a super good After Effects program that I'm aware of. There's I think Synology, but it doesn't. It's fairly lame, I can say right now.
50-50.
But I don't know. Maybe there is another one. I haven't gone over to Alternative 2 to see. But we'll see.
Also, if you're looking for a distro that can run like almost any application under the sun, like thousands and thousands, I would recommend Manjaro.
Yeah, I mean...
Manjaro, Cinnamon, whatever you like.
Yeah, I mean, they have that. Manjaro is what I'm running on my... web design computer, because it's a Raspberry Pi, and like it or not, Manjaro is who builds the best Raspberry Pi operating systems.
Well, it's Arch based, but it's very user friendly, and you can run. There's things you cannot find for Debian and Ubuntu that you may be able to find in the R repositories. Or native to R.
And that does raise some questions though about the AUR repositories, because those are all like completely unaudited, and so it is frightening. And there has been some weird stuff shown in there.
If you're an experienced user, I would not go that route for. This is for somebody that's more of a power user.
I can make this argument with Flatpak is just about as bad as the AUR in some cases, except it's containerized. Let's take Audacity for an example. If you go to, if you open up your GNOME store, whatever store you got, and you go and you look at the Flatpak Audacity package, it's going to be a 3.12 or something like that. Read the comments. People are having problems using this thing without an internet connection because it collects telemetry.
Yes.
If you're on Debian and you get it from the Debian repository, it's a version 2 point something, which is before this company bought it and destroyed it.
Even the Arch repository version, they may have stripped out the telemetry, because the Arch people seem to do that. I do not know that for sure, but it's possible. That's something to look into.
The flat pack, the flat pack version. There's people there's people that put comments in about it.
The Audacity flat pack is compromised with telemetry. You have to be aware of that.
Just be very, very careful if you use R, because absolutely you can easily get infected if you're not sure what you're doing.
Correct.
Yeah,
the AUR patch is just build scripts.
So
you got to realize these flat packs, these app images some of them are proprietary. Matter of fact, that's how people want to get their software into the Linux world and they don't want it to be open source, is they package it that way.
Yep.
Yeah. But another thing, I remember when I started doing Linux, I think it went almost 10 years before I discovered that there was that the software packages that was a thing. So for a period of 10 years in the 2000s, whenever I needed some software that wasn't pre-installed, I would browse the internet and I can compile that.
Braver man than I. Somebody asked what version of let's see, where was it at? What version of LibreOffice do I currently use? It depends on the computer. I have a lot of computers. I have a dirt old one that's on my MX computer that I actually use to write my books on right now. My Arch Media PC has LibreOffice still. Now, when you're in Arch and I think Fedora and I think OpenSUSE, I forget which ones all have it, you'll see a LibreOffice still and a LibreOffice fresh. The difference, if you're asked which one of those you want to install, still is a more stable. It's a more stable version. It's the latest version, all security patches, but it doesn't roll out new features as frequently. Fresh is a completely rolling version of LibreOffice. Most like your Ubuntu's and Debians don't have those. You just have whatever version they have. But if you're on an Arch system and a few other ones, you'll be asked that question. For some reason, my web design computer has Fresh. I don't know why, but I don't care. It works.
Debian comes with version 7.042.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have all the latest versions of everything, except, of course, on my Arch systems. Although there are some really good new features inside of it, they're not features that is a game changer for me, so I'm not going to. I could go in on a Debian system, on an Ubuntu system. I could go in, add a repository to have the absolute latest version of LibreOffice. I don't bother doing that, so I use whatever's in my repository.
On my email virtual machine, I have OpenOffice 3.2. It's on old OS that I'm using.
For Debian distros now, also, if you're running NVIDIA graphics, there is an NVIDIA repository, and you can even get the CUDA tools installed. They have a repository. Instead of downloading a .run file and going through the problem of killing your entire video system just to run this file, you just put in the repository. It does it automatically for you and upgrades your NVIDIA driver to the very latest driver. And if another one comes out, it will upgrade that too with your normal upgrade process.
Commodore fan says likes Manjaro but can be unstable at time with updates causing crashes. I've actually not I've not had as many Manjaro issues as I've actually had Endeavor OS issues. Believe it or not, nearly every time I update Endeavor OS, something goes wrong, and I have to go and fix it. It started to the point where I started looking at the forum to see, before I push an update, if there's anything I need to change, only to find the last time I did that, the forum was down. It's like, all right, let's do it. And guess what? It wouldn't update because there was an issue with one of the keys. And so you had to do a manual thing for the keys, but Manjaro pushed the key update before anything else, so it didn't break the system. However, that being said, I'm using Manjaro on a Raspberry Pi, and so that is slightly different than everything else. Solus website is down right now. Okay.
So yeah, it's KDE. Well, Manjaro KDE that I really had lots of issues. But if you try another desktop environment on Manjaro, it would probably work better. Because then again, KDE, especially the latest release, they're always changing everything, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm not a huge fan of my operating system changing on an update.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I like older versions, and even those I don't update every time there's an update. No Jab Ever says there was an article a few months back about hardware vendors like Intel locking out other OSs. That is something we need to pay a little bit more attention to in the Linux community. And I think this is one of the problems, because every Linux computer you can buy is super expensive and super top of the line. And this pisses me off. I'm not paying thousands of dollars for a stupid computer. Okay?
We need
these
budget
people are really
options.
serious about just getting Linux into the world and becoming a really good system, you need to give us run-of-the-mill computers that the average person can use.
Like System 76,
it needs to be
it's very
accessible.
expensive.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is very true. They're 90% of Americans probably can't. Like, what do they say? Can't afford a $500 to $1,000 emergency.
Yeah.
So, you've got System 76 is out of reach for a lot of people.
Yeah, so
now,
like System 76 they do really good stuff, okay? But let's look at a laptop. Let's configure the lowest end laptop we can. Okay, we're already starting at 900.
It's just out of reach for most
my
people.
My work laptop, when I'm working at coffee shops, it cost me $300. And it's really good. Like, okay, 12th gen Core i5, i7. Okay, that's fine.
Imagine in Canadian that what I have to pay.
And it's going to call an arm and a leg.
It's gotten to the point to keep my desktop PC up to top AAA game playing levels. I have to buy it one piece at a time.
Okay, so
I can't just go out and buy a complete unit. I have to buy a graphics card and wait 8 months and maybe buy a motherboard with a CPU to go with it.
There you go.
So we have with this computer, which is like the 800, you can, it's free. Do you want Ubuntu or Pop OS? Given that choice, give me Pop OS for sure. i5 1240p processor, which is a really good processor, but it's overkill for some people. 8 gigs of DDR4 RAM, that's the minimum. That's fine. 240 gigabyte SSD, one power charger, and then do you want any of these other things? So there's some switches. No. Do you want any extra wow, it's a pretty expensive curved display, but for 49-inch super curved ultra wide, close to $2,000. There you go.
Yoicks.
1 year warranty. There's a Canada warranty 2-way ground shipping coverage. You can pay $155 for a Canadian warranty there. You can do a 3-day rush assembly service for an extra $60, and you can $9 for that. So that's the computer you get for $900. Not bad. I mean, that's fine. If I had an extra $900, I'd definitely support System 76. But where are the lower end computers? Because, by the way, Linux runs way better on lower end computers than Windows. But I
have 12-year-old garbage that runs.
Just
Windows is a very heavy operating system.
Yeah, everyone's talking at once. We can't have that. All right.
I'm sorry.
Dan, I think you were up first.
Yeah, I got a number of 12-year-old and older computers around here for testing Peppermint on. And in most cases, if you put an SSD in them, you've just doubled the computer speed. Yeah,
for sure. I was actually looking at SSDs yesterday. It's like, ooh, do I want to upgrade this? Like, I can't right now, because my work laptop is.
I got a Dell Latitude 630D, which is like from the middle of the 2000s somewhere, and it's a 2-core machine. I use it for testing 32-bit, distros on. And then I got one that's a couple of years newer. It's a Studio. I use that one for testing the Dev1 Debian builds on. Then I got a 3rd generation HP over here. And it's got like 8 gigs of RAM in it and an SSD. And that one's the one that's got the bookworm on it. Mm-hmm. The Debian bookworm rolling release. And I got to update it every day. Yeah, I'm playing with that. It's been peppermintized. But
peppertized.
Yeah, and then I have my latest one I got here. I got a Dell Precision laptop that's from 2019. That one's pretty peppy, and it has the newer ISP LED display on it. It's really nice for watching movies bundled up on the couch.
Yes, Solstance for MP3 tagging. Kid 3, that's actually what I use for all my MP3 tagging. Works great.
Kid 3 is good for removing additional garbage that you don't see with the other tag programs.
I think there's a few other ones out there as well. Everyone tried LibreOffice you can use through Nextcloud? Yes. I've had that. I do not have it currently running on my current Nextcloud build, but I'm actually going to rebuild Nextcloud for my corporate work instead of the generic one I have right now. So
why I mentioned the MP3 tag program, that's the only one I found that will actually let me sign in with it into my Discogs account and get album art to go with all my MP3s.
What?
Otherwise, album art is really, tough to dig up.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah. I mean, you can add that with Kid 3, easy.
I can't get it to sync up with anything though to get album art because it's all outdated.
Yeah. Well, can you just download the album art? Because I put the album art on my podcast MP3s, and because I just create the album art and then just drag it from the file over on from the computer over onto the file on Kid 3. It'll embed the.
That's a lot of extra steps for when you got 20 MP3s.
Yeah, it is, but
tag.
it's the nuclear option when nothing else works.
It's just that the MP3 tag does it just so nicely. You've got the song, it knows where to find the album and everything, and gets it for you.
I need to check something. I just had a big bang, and I think it might have been a cow.
Oh my God!
Well, a cow?
You got rammed?
Welcome in, guys. Welcome in, sir.
No, that's a type of goat.
Glad to have you back in. That looks good.
No, rams are more related to goats.
Maybe he just got some new steak served just outside.
Yeah, I wonder if
it served itself.
Yeah,
The joys of being out in the boonies, huh?
I'm just so confused. He just said, I think that was a cow.
A cow.
Was it a cow?
I have no idea.
Did it feel like a cow?
It was a definite bang, but I do not see anything nearby.
Was it a tire that blew out?
Possible. I don't feel it going this, but possible.
You said you were near New Mexico, right?
Yes.
Maybe somebody doesn't.
It's an illegal alien.
I don't know.
Possible.
Pow!
Chupacabra. Possible. Yeah, I should probably go out and investigate a little bit more. So we're going to wrap up the stream here. I think we got some good content.
Yeah, so I just, while you were talking about getting a cheap system that people can use, I just checked 2 or 3 Norwegian stores. And on one of them, they separate between gaming systems and regular systems. And the regular desktop system, the cheapest one they have is about $320, and the cheapest gaming system is $670. So it all depends on what you want to do.
All right. We're going to wrap this one up here because I need to go investigate strange noises in the dark outside.
Yay.
Don't be yourself.
Have fun.
I'll stick around. I'll stick around on Jitsi for you guys in a minute here, but we're gonna wrap up the streams everywhere. So thanks for watching, everybody. Tomorrow, weekly news roundup, 9:00.
Yeah.
Tonight we will have
Have an awesome day, y'all.
Christian stream tonight. So we will have that going on 9:00 tonight over on the Christian channel, Our Walk in Christ. I'll be doing Hosea chapter 2. And with that, guys, we will see you later.
Y'all have an awesome day.
Y'all take care now.